whether we are conscious of it or not, each and every single one of us is going somewhere. Whether we have a goal we are striving for, or whether we don't feel as though we have a goal we are striving for, we're still going somewhere. And that's the reality of it. But sometimes we may feel like we aren't going anywhere. Whether we do have a goal to strive for, or whether we don't, we may still feel as though we aren't going anywhere. And we then realize that that doesn't stop life from moving forward or ticking or progressing. And so if we are stood where we are and everything else and everyone else is moving closer towards what they want to do or what they want to achieve, then am I left behind? And so what tends to happen is that some of us, and I have felt this before, and I am continuously invited to feel this way as well, is that we tend to feel as though we are left behind, or another way of putting it is we feel as though we are behind in life. This sort of feeling may inspire a tendency of self-loathing, or somewhat a way of, a perspective of sort of hopelessness that isn't an ideal perspective to have if you are trying to go anywhere. So I have had some time to think about this, and I have realized that there are different ways we can address this and understand this. The first step to overcome or address the very feeling of being behind or left behind in life is to first recognize it. Some of us may be feeling this without even recognizing it. And after recognizing it, the next step would be to understand it. And once we've understood it, we appreciate why it's there. Even though it's not serving us, by us appreciating that the feeling of being left behind or being behind in life, if we appreciate this, we will eventually learn from the situation, and we will eventually be able to transcend that and overcome it. So when looking at this, there are many ways we can actually address it. And so since we said that the first step is to recognize it, in order to recognize it, we have to be honest. And so if we are honest with ourselves, we can see that, hey, I am beating myself up because I feel like I am behind. And so let's understand why we may feel this way. And the way to understand that is to not look at the symptom of the feeling of being left behind, or the feeling of hopelessness that may come with it. Let's look at the root as to why we feel behind. And the root is fundamentally linked to the concept of time. What is time to you? What is time to me? And when looking at this, one may realize that time is relative. And this may have been thrown around quite a lot within, the science community and within philosophy. But essentially what we're trying to say here is that when time is relative, time is different for each individual or each situation. And so the evidence for this is very simple. Imagine that you are engaged in an activity that you really love, whether it's drawing, whether it's cooking or singing. when you love this activity so much and you are finished and done with taking or engaging in this activity, you may say, whew, that went quick. Or whether it's you're indulged in a sort of movie or a series that you're watching or a book that you're reading, time can just feel as though it's flying by. And on the flip side, you may feel as though time is moving very slow because you're engaged in a mundane activity that can somewhat be boring. And so this is evidence that time moves differently to you given the situation. Now, wherever you are in life, you are in a given situation. And so you may feel that time is moving very slow, or you may feel that time is moving very fast, but you are essentially in a given situation, in a given circumstance. Now, can you sort of see the beauty or see the joy in the very mundane or boring activity that you don't like doing? Is it possible? Well, if someone on the planet really loves the very boring activities or the very activities that you find boring, if they love it and time seems to go quickly for them, you can somehow shift your perspective in order to realize that, hey, maybe I love doing this. Maybe I can see why this is very fun. And so you have changed your perspective into seeing that it's okay to take part in this, and then poof, time seems to be so quickly in doing this. There's a certain acceptance and a surrender that comes with engaging in this activity. So where are we now? We have noticed that essentially by changing the perspective, we can allow ourselves to be okay with where we are. So if we feel behind in life, we can now recognize that time is relative to each individual. Everyone has their sort of clock. Everyone has their time to shine, and everyone has their time to improve. And we should appreciate wherever we are all the time. And appreciation gives us the platform to move forward in the most smoothest manner. So, to really look at this, are you really behind in life? Is there really such thing as being behind in life? Relative to who? Relative to what? And so, the devil is really in the details here. Relative, you have sort of two opposing factors here. What I'm trying to say is that if you compare your life situation, your circumstance with your next door neighbor's life situation, life circumstance, you may have a reaction of, oof, I really wouldn't want to be him or her. Or you may have another reaction of, oof, I really wish I was him or her. And it's that very thought process that eventually triggers you to feel as though you are behind in life if you wish to be him or her, or if you compare yourself with your peers that you grew up together with from your hometown or from school or something. You may feel as though you are left behind because one of them is really rich now, one of them is married, one of them has a car that you really wish to have, or has already bought a house, or on the flip side, some of them are in prison, some of them, are homeless, some of them are... It's really relative. It really doesn't matter where anyone really is. Now, the very purpose of this video is for you to be able to move forward and understand that wherever you are It's okay. And things will only get better. Now, the purpose of this video is to essentially understand that you can get in your own way at times, psychologically, by placing yourself in a certain perspective that inhibits you from moving forward. Now, having said that, I really hope that wherever you are, you will understand that this is perhaps the most perfect place to be in. Because wherever you are, whatever difficulty you are facing, it is part of where you are going. The lesson you could learn here is what will allow you to move towards where you want to go.